Sometimes when looking at the time and expense human beings spend on religion, we might ask ourselves the question, do we really need a fancy sanctuary? We can pray to God anywhere. Why do we need a temple that is beautiful with arching ceilings and windows for light that is expensive to maintain? Why do places of worship of all faiths beautify their buildings when the main architecture with which we are concerned is that of the soul? Why, when we travel, do we visit cathedrals, even when we're not Catholic, or go looking at the calligraphy that adorns mosques? Why do we want to see the sanctuaries of other synagogues? What draws us to these spaces? Clearly, a beautiful building fills a human need. God doesn't need a fancy sanctuary, but as evidenced by the artistry of different places of worship, most human beings feel a need to be inspired by their surroundings. And according to this week's Torah portion, Pekudei, this was true even of the ancient Israelites over 3,000 years ago. A few chapters before, the Israelites panicked when Moses was gone too long up the mountain, so they made a golden calf to worship. God sent Moses back down the mountain with the tablets of the law to stop them. Afterwards, apparently acquiescing to a human need, God tells Moses that the people should build a tabernacle, a sanctuary, with an ark instead of a statue of an animal. Better to turn in worship to a golden box that contains the law with the words of God than a Canaanite idol. If the people need something solid to see and grasp, they should focus on this and not that. The tabernacle was made of gold, silver, and copper. Its curtains were woven with costly dyed cloth made with rare ingredients. When people faced it, they were supposed to feel uplifted. But it was not just the function and look of the tabernacle that were supposed to inspire religious feeling. It was also the art and construction itself. Everyone coming together for a community project, with each person being able to give something toward it, was part of the tabernacle's purpose. If each person contributed to the tabernacle, then everyone would feel a sense of ownership of it. In this vein, there is a parable told by the Maggid of Dubno, Rabbi Yaakov ben Wolf-Krantz, about Moses and the building of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. There was a king who came to a city whose inhabitants were all poor and run down. They had nothing to offer the king as a present, as was the custom of the time. But there was one rich person who was discerning in heart. This wealthy person could have simply acquired a present and given it to the king on behalf of the town. Instead, they decided to get everyone involved. What did they do? They gave instructions for the construction of a precious piece of art made up of many different pieces of gold, silver, and copper. They directed each person to produce a part of the work and had them fit together while they supervised. When the work was completed by all of the people, the rich person took this precious piece of art and gave it to the king, bringing all of the people along. The king was very touched and asked, "Who made this gift?" In that moment, the wealthy person motioned to all of the people to come forward, one after the other, each to be presented to the king. In this way, everyone in the city merited to come face to face with the sovereign. And this is what Moses did. When the work of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, was completed, work that was done with will and love by all of Israel, he brought all of the Israelites and presented them before God, saying, All of Israel, your children, are the artisans who built your sanctuary. Every one of them has a part in your dwelling place. According to this story, it was not just the practical use of the tabernacle that was part of the worship, with enough space for sacrifices and celebrations. It was also the partnership and construction that was a form of tribute to God. Art and the human cooperation behind it can be a form of worship. Rabbeinu Bachya adds that this is why this week's Torah portion uses the word avodah for the construction of the tabernacle. Avodah does not just mean work. Avodah also means worship. The works of our hands can be a form of prayer. And it's not just the works of our hands, but our voices in the choir, our keyboard clicks in the office, the cleaning, painting, baking, and more baking. And all of it can be forms of worship to God. The work, the gift of each person coming together is itself a kind of prayer. Community is hard to maintain. It takes tolerance. It takes patience. And if you think you are putting in an effort being patient with someone else, chances are they are equally trying to be patient with you. But we are all here to come together as our best selves to create a beautiful space, a beautiful sound, a beautiful feeling, and ultimately a place where we can all contribute and belong. Worship can be work, and work can be worship. A final teaching from this week's Torah portion, because what happens on the outside affects what happens on the inside. Rabbi Yitzhak Meir Rothenberg Alter taught, why were 100 talents of silver collected to create 100 sockets for the frame of the tabernacle? The Hebrew word for socket is aden, similar to the title of God, Adonai. These sockets that hold the holy structure together remind us to recite 100 blessings to God every day. 100 sockets, 100 blessings. And in this way, 100 blessings a day create the spiritual foundation for our inner sanctuary. Shabbat Shalom.